Hey everybody, how are y'all this evening? I guess 7:45, the old sun is sinking low. Taking a little break with a little bit of orange sun kiss. Got off work at a decent hour this evening and was able to come home and started working on some of this brush that's growing into the chicken shed. My sister and I talked about it, and she's worried about the shade being lost, but I think we're all good. Got some more ventilation there. I'm gonna run out of daylight to clean up after myself, but we'll hopefully have the weekend for that. But all that came out of that one little patch right there. Ain't that something? But been a pretty good week. Hope y'all's has been good. I was out here and trying to take my time and be selective on what I was cutting, and to see what was best and what wasn't. But you know, it's something about my return here coming out of Waco. For those of you who don't know, I've lived out there for about 13 years, and before that and through that, been all in retail management and the music business and all that. Seen a lot of stuff in a short 40 years or so. But I was thinking in relation to shade and what's good shade and what's bad shade or temporary shade, and trying to be real careful about making sure I was finding a balance. And a thought hit me that applies to pretty much life and everything, and I've seen it time and time again, especially even in my immediate family with my mom and dad. We see so many folks flash and burn in the pan, and you get immediate shade like that. It'll almost come up by itself. But over time, it gets to be a big mess, really. It looks sloppy and doesn't really provide the shade you thought it was going to provide. It doesn't get that big. But you take some of these trees that maybe at first didn't have a whole lot of shade. They were slow growing and steady, and now they're the ones providing the shade, while the fast growers are still sitting in the garden, in the starting gate. No, I guess that's how a lot of us are too. And I admit I've been the same way. You come flashing out of the gate and it all looks good at the start. Before you know it, you're still just sitting at the gate flowering, I guess. So we're going to stick with the old trees, the ones that grew right and slow and steady and will be there for a whole minute providing good shade. So don't worry, Kim. I'll go through and find the right ones. I've got a few. Some of them are growing into the chicken shed, and that's not going to be good for long term. They're actually molding into the wood and shifting the structure. So just because it grows there doesn't mean that it needs to stay there, right? Let's see who all's on here this evening. Hey Phil, good to see you. Hadn't seen you pop on in a little while. Well, my sister Kim is watching, so guess I better behave. Angie, how are you? Up in Carolinas. Oh, no sad faces, Kim. Dolores, how are you? Uh-oh, there's Donna. Here comes the wild man. It's coming. Hey, Sarah, how are you? There it is. Jean, how are you doing? Carolyn, how are you? Anyway, we had most of the peas come up in the big garden, and the corn looks good. We had to go through with no rain. Some of them didn't germinate, so we fixed that. Jordan and I did a little patchwork planting yesterday evening. And I don't know, let me show you all this one. You know, if you've grown watermelons before, you'll when you've got good vines, sometimes some of the bigger melons won't expose themselves. You miss them because they're not on the edge until they really start growing big. And Jordan shot me a picture of this the other day when he was out here checking the place and I was at work. And we got a good size one coming on here. Let me show y'all. Oh, okay, Kim. So that was looking pretty good. You can see it's getting the size of my hand there. So that was kind of a neat find. I guess I'm glad I've got another garden in with these peas, because I'm afraid my first run, even though I hand plowed this one too and felt like, man, it was so big, I've been picking these cream crowders and they're about done. Purple holes are still coming on, but you can see the crowders are about done. And through my inexperience, I guess, and may not have been the best ground for peas, but I think we might end up, when it's all said and done, with a quart. we're having to pick a handful a day and just add them to the quart bag, and maybe by the time they're done, we'll have one mess out of that. But hey, you live and you learn, right? That's part of the journey. So maybe we'll do a little better job with these. Got some weeds in the furrows, but we'll maybe get those knocked out Saturday. But you can see they're starting to come up out here. We should have a little bit of crop out here in the pasture. If we can keep them old deer away. They're prime picking for deer right now, so I'm a little bit antsy every morning to get up and make sure they're all still there. With corn starting to pop up, got a few gaps, but we've replanted some areas and should see some success. Let me see there. Oh, okay. That's a good tip, Dolores. I don't think I've heard that one. Kathy, actually, that's a good question. There was one hen laying eggs, and obviously it's a little bit premature for them at their age. Of course, that's subjective. They've really got about another month, and we're still butchering a few chickens along the way. And I was scared I was going to end up butchering the only one that was laying, so I came home the other afternoon. We timed about when she was laying, and she was actually on the spot where she lays and laid an egg while I was waiting, so I was watching her. And I went out there and tied just a really small piece of haystring on her, not tied at all, on her leg, just so I'd know which one she was. Because my luck, I'd end up killing the only hen doing eggs. And since I've done that, she hadn't laid in 2 days, so I guess I freaked her out. Another lesson learned. Don't tie the haystring on the laying hen. No, who knows what the deal is, but I'm sure she'll go back to laying for long. Once they all kick into gear, we're going to have plenty of eggs with 46 chickens, even if every other one lays every other day. That's what, a couple of dozen a day, if not more. There's the pirate from Lafayette. Hey, Chris, how are you? See if anybody, that's a good tip, Dolores. I did read that. I'll check it out. Yeah, it's looking good, I thought, Angie. Hey, Janie, how are you? Up in Cincinnati. Good to see you checking in. But not a whole lot going on. Tomato plants will go in the empty spot. They're about ready for transplanting. Been exposing them to this old hot sun, the little tomato plants, a little bit every day so they don't go into total shock when they get full sun out there. But anyway, I did learn a little something about the Three Sisters corn method. I was thinking you could do it in the row, but I was looking more into it to make sense. You've actually got to have a 4-foot mound, which makes better sense. So I'm going to do a couple of those just for an experimental thing, and we'll all learn together if y'all haven't done it. But the method is a 4-foot mound, 4-foot wide mound, about a foot high, so kind of a raised bed in itself. And to get the cross-pollination, you put 7, plants, or plant some seeds in a circle of corn, and then once they get up to about 5 inches high, then you plant some bean plants around the outer circle of that, and then finally the squash around the outside of that. But I learned that raccoons do not like squash leaves, so that protects the barrier of the corn and beans from them getting in there. I don't know, it's kind of interesting. We'll try it out. I've got some spots out there where I can put it in, so we'll see. I see that, Chris, alive and kicking down in Lafayette. Well, hey, tomorrow's Friday. I guess everybody's in a little better mood on Friday. Been working at a school here in East Texas, running some data and an internet connection line. And the floors are getting waxed for the kids to return. So I think about every school has the same kind of smell. Always takes you back to grade school, or at least it does for me. But they've got another year of learning on tap. For all of y'all that don't think the teachers work during the summer, you are sadly mistaken. But I promise you, they're up there getting their classrooms ready and ready to influence some young minds in a positive way. So why don't we step up the plate and do our part and influence those around us this week and tomorrow. I ran into an old sour puss at the gas station this afternoon, and she did look like she was going to crack a smile, and I shot her a big one and finally got one out of her, so that was kind of neat. So maybe gave her a few seconds of levity in her afternoon, for whatever it's worth. But anyway, beautiful day, mild, tepid, and we're gonna call it. Y'all have a good evening. Hope I didn't miss anybody. If I did, I'm sorry. And guess we'll catch up with you later. Y'all be the difference and be the light. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a good Friday.